We'll give a minute for folks to join in and we'll then get started.
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening, Venki. How are you?
I'm okay. I got up early just for you.
Okay. Glad. Welcome. All right. Um, just before we start, a bit of housekeeping. We will first, I'll just walk you through the entire presentation, and if you have any questions, any comments, feel free to use the chat window. And we have, of course, once we've gone through, we have a Q&A, FAQs and Q&A, where we will be able to address all your queries. With that said, thank you very much. Really excited to have all of you here. First of all, thank you for taking this time on a Thursday evening and for Thursday morning, early morning. I know few folks have joined in from various parts of the world. So first of all, deeply thankful that you all took time to join us in this gathering here. I'll get started. Um, Kadir, if you could just also just let in people folks while we get started. Yeah. All right. So yes, you all have probably seen my message and mail in terms of the idea is to give you an overview of unified agriculture interface and what it means. And so this is what we plan to cover. I want to give a bit of a prologue and also talk about the big picture. We will then get into getting into more specifics around introducing UAI and talk a little bit more. We also have some of the folks from the UAI team, Sunil Kernaji, who probably needs no introduction to this ecosystem. He's also joined here, so he will also speak about the Nashik pilot, and we will also talk about where do we really go from here, and we sort of preempted some FAQs, and so will talk about it, and then the floor will be open. While we do the presentation, feel free to use the chat window to share your questions, and Kadir or somebody from our team would probably be going through them, and we will address them as we go along there. Yeah. So this is the team per se. We have Sunilji here, and we also have Mahesh and Kadir also from our team here. So we've been this was possible because of initially the seed was started with three organizations, which is largely the Indigram Labs, Spectrum Impact, and FIDE. FIDE is a non-profit organization that's been set up by Nandan Elikani, where the idea is to create a sort of an interoperable protocol specifications. So FIDE is also one of the core partners in this initiative here. So really, we want to get started with a very unusual place here, which is, rather than just giving you a sense of an idea of what an open agriculture network could look like, I thought it'll be good to go back to history and actually talk about something that is very real and grounded in reality here. For those of you who may not be aware, this is a data point which was recorded by a survey that was done by British in the 1770s. And this was a survey done in the Chengalpattu districts, which is a southern part of the India, and specifically in Tamil Nadu, few regions. So what this data is showing is, it is showing, first of all, measuring the various lands that have been used by farmers, and it is also showing how the lands were also used as certain kind of taxation for various village level institutions here. So you can see that the the overall set of produce, right, which is called as Kavalam in Tamil. This produce was, there was a certain system where this agricultural produce was distributed to various village level institutions that included temples, that included, your average, let's say somebody who is a blacksmith and somebody who is an artisan, and various levels of village level folks who were there, institutions, and there is a very detailed mechanism of how this produce will be shared with each other. And you can see that, you're talking about lamp oil from Purohit, from water pandal, and also to the temple flower garden. So there's a certain sense of mechanism of how this entire produce was shared across a different set of stakeholders. Now, if you really see the design here, we are talking about a sort of a network where the entire, at a village level, right? This was not done at a top-down level. This was done at a village level, and then the resources were shared in a kind of a network here. To me, if we really look at the underlying principles behind it, it talks about a certain design where instead of a centralizing authority that exists somewhere else, here the village as a unit decides how much are they producing and how much are they sharing here. And in this, there is also a certain sense of, that's not very product centric and purpose centric. What that means is that rather than just individually each of them dealing with their entities, the focus here is to look at what is the entire purpose and how can we gather the resources at a collective level and then share, right? What we are also seeing here from a fundamental principle aspect here is there's no somebody who is at the top dictating that this is how it should be organized. This is a constantly revolving and moving and evolving cycle here. And because of this, the design in terms of a self-organizing here, we are not really trying to avoid the complexity, because we are trying to decide who are all can people come together here. And so the fundamental element here is we are talking about an ecosystem building. So in a funny way, what was the real life attempt in building this kind of an open agricultural network back in 1770s, before the British invasion? In a certain way, if you really look at the larger picture, we are now trying to really rethink the whole in a new way, in a new set of infrastructure. That is in a sense, a certain sense to how I would put together the essence of what we are trying to do here. Because if you really look at the big picture here, uh, civilizations over time have evolved from various levels, right? If you really sort of approximate the entire human civilization in a linear way, I don't know if Jagdish is there in this room here, but it was Jagdish who actually discussed this with me, where we talked about when we look at the cultural evolution, right, in terms of how societies have evolved from tribal life to folk life to feudal life, our modes of organizing also evolved. We first went into smaller local tribes, and from there we went towards a certain model of countries coming into it. And from there, we eventually moved into corporations, which became a very organizing phenomenon for 19th century. And that from that mode, we are now moving for dealing with the 21st century challenges like climate change and the kind of challenges we face today. We are seeing that ecosystems is a very, very strong, important way to respond to it. So this is again at a very, very, very higher level, 25,000 feet level, right? Now, what does this really ground it to what is happening on the ground? What is really happening is something like this, where this is the architecture diagram for Vista. I really wanted to throw you into the deep end here, because what we are seeing, what we're doing here is we are connecting various levels of advisory players, and this could be somebody from different states, it could be from a government body, it could be from a private bodies, and then bring all of them together and create an advisory and a knowledge-based ecosystem. That is where the knowledge-based information and advisory that's provided is now coming together by a certain sort of a network, open network, federated network called as Vistar. So, in a sense, what we are trying to do in an ecosystem, this is a good example of what we are striving to do from the sense of Vistar. Because when we are trying to organize everything as an ecosystem, what does it really mean? In an essence, what we are trying to do is really think about it from a very, very, very fundamental elements here, right? A friend of mine was asking, is this becoming your philosophy class? But actually, if you start to look at it from an ecosystem and from a network world, you realize that this almost becomes like some kind of a way to go and get into an elemental aspects here, right? Because fundamentally, in building an open network, we are talking about three elements here. One is an identity, where I might be a farmer, or I may be a piece of land, a small part of land that has been passed to me, or I may be an equipment, or I may be a specifically an identity that could be not just for humans but also for the digital infrastructure that we may have. It could be the tools, it could be a various set of players. Now, from that, we are trying to bring together a certain level of credentialing that has been done for those players, and from there we are then asking now, if this person or if a farmer, let's say a farmer has a rotavator, right? Now, from there, what do I have? Right now, I have a rotavator, or I may be having certain assets, or I may be looking at, I may have a piece of land which has been verified and digital land records have been added to it. Now, from this asset that is there, from there, I then move to a network where I am asking myself, what do I do with it? And that is where an open networks come into play. And this is where a lot of networks are right now coming in. I am not too sure if everybody is familiar with Vistar, but we will still talk about a lot of these aspects, because the idea is for me to provide you a very bigger picture of the entire movement that's happening now towards open networks, and that's the way we have structured this thing here. So we will talk about Vistar, ONDC, and the UAI here. So now the first question that you may want to ask is, how does this all add up, right? We will talk specifically about UAI, but if you were to really zoom in from a aeroplane view, right, we will be talking about networks that will be integrating and interlinked with each other. Like the UAI will be the hyperlocal arm for ONDC. I'm assuming some of you are familiar with what ONDC and here. So, and then now there is another network that I talked about, which is the advisory and information only network, which is where the Vistar is coming in. Now, in addition to this, now think of a scenario like a farmer is growing, let's say, he's growing fodder stock for his cattle. Now it can be a Napier grass, and now he has an issue with this fodder grass, and so he uses the Plantix. I've used Plantix as an example here, just to illustrate how all of these networks will come together. So let's say he is using a Plantix app and taking a photo, and now as he takes photo, he could very well from here move into another set of network, which could be a Vistar, where he could, the farmer, if he's gotten certain level of information and advisory from Plantix, he may very well move into ONDC, or he may then switch over to a Vistar for getting a very specific advisory on, let's say, what are the problems that could be having when you're trying to grow feedstock. And from there, now having grown this feedstock, if he wants to, let's say, use it and gain some credits for using the bioenergy, he could very well go into another network, which is the UEI. So we are talking about a scenario where these multiple networks are all coexisting and are being interoperable with each other. So in a way, it might be sound a little bit dizzy and probably a little bit abstract, but we will go down to specifics here in terms of what what this will really entail from a ground level here. So at one level, we are talking about a fundamental principle is that it has to be farmer led, and it has to be the community is the fulcrum in which it is starting in here. So now, with that as a center, we imagine a scenario where you can connect in with multiple networks that are being emerging now, right? If you've been following some of the activities, some of the developments that are happening in digital public infrastructure, you would notice that there are various platforms and various networks that are being built now. And in a sort of scenario is the kind of scenario we are envisaging is how each of these systems and platforms and networks will sort of start integrating with each other. whether it is education and skilling in terms of providing the right set of trainings, let's say for regenerative practices, and then making sure that the farmers get the right set of bio-inputs from an ONDC. From there, moving into and advisory services where you're getting the right set of data that looks into your specific context. And these are not, again, we're not talking about a generic advisory here. We are talking about a scenario where we will integrate it with your weather data and what are the government schemes, and from there, now if you based on these data, if you want to, let's say, give a credit, or if you want to enable let's say an MSME credit, or it could be any kind of form of unlocking credits, you could enable them, and then the whole cycle gets completed here. So this is, in a certain sense, largely the intent here. I'll maybe briefly pause in here just so that everyone is able to follow along here. Any questions, any reflections, thoughts before we really get into here? All right, I'll take the silence as people are still grasping and digesting it. We will sort of open the floor latest point also. So if you have any questions around what we've covered, is the pace okay here? Are you able to follow along whatever I'm saying there, or do you want me to further slow down? Please let me know.
Venki, this is Shashi.
Yes, Shashi. Could I request you to turn on your videos also so that I get a sense that I'm not talking to a bunch of boxes and to humans here?
Yes.
Yes, Shashi.
Okay, how see when we look at specifically the food ecosystem or agriculture. So I mean, we've spoken about this kind of a breakdown in terms of the ecological management or ecosystem services management from, say, bioregion to ecoregion. In this case, it comes down to the watershed level. Basically, whatever we are talking about. So, are we looking at this kind of a network, like multiple numbers of localized networks in a particular region, or there's some kind of a global thing which will have regional thing, and what is the structure? How, or is kind of a like a open thing which takes its own organic form?
Yeah, see, it will be localized. And that is where we said, right? Like there are multiple networks that are emerging. But in the case of UAI, we are talking about a community-led, a localized network. And this network can be mapped with a bioregion to answer your specific point that you're asking in. And these networks will then coexist with multiple and be interoperable across different networks here. So that is the broader design we are looking at. We are not, the idea is to make it as open as we can and bring in any network that is already existing in the network, which is following the protocol here, right? I really don't want to make this very technical, and that's where I slightly went into a somewhat quasi-philosophical level so that we understand what are the elements here. But the idea is to have one common protocol, and that is where all of them are unified by the Beacon protocol. Now, what is the Beacon protocol? That Beacon protocol is simply a language that we are all using to share, which is a unified language of that will make it easy for us to communicate across different networks. So, but given that I really don't want to go very technical in this. There, we have some folks here in the.
See, there are two things. During the conversation, for any protocol which has to work, like even the ones which have been built on Beacon so far, the value and the incentives, they are very two critical things.
Yeah. So we will address that right now. We will
We've
been talking only in the level network here. We will now talk specifically in terms of what is the value and what is the incentive here, right? Broadly speaking, at an incentive level, see today, at a very basic level, which is probably, in my view, what is the fundamental challenges today. we don't have to, everybody has multiple set of apps and we keep jumping between different apps there. And the data that is there sitting across one app doesn't talk with each other. So that is the artificial barrier that we want to break down, and so that you are able to seamlessly move across different platforms and applications. Now that is where the network as such is coming together and creating this unified agriculture interface.
So if this can be done, it is game changing. Game changing is a very revolution kind of a thing.
Yeah,
But-
that's the idea.
Yeah,
We'll
but
talk specifically now. Now we'll get into more grounded levels here. So this really started in a way, where we this is just to give you a bit of a recap of our journey. We started off this, can we have an open network that can interface with everyone? And we started initially having some conversations with about 20 plus service providers. And Sunilji is here. The idea of doing this in Nashik came into the picture in a very strong way, because Nashik obviously is fairly mature and in the way this network is, and then there is also a certain level of openness to embrace these networks. So that's where we decided to kickstart the pilot in Nashik. Now Sunilji will talk about that in greater length now. And then we kickstarted the pilot somewhere in around August now. Now, at a broader level, the networks are there everywhere, right? This is not just, we are not just talking only in agriculture here, right? Given that agriculture has interface with every other ecosystem here, we're talking about networks that are being right now built in every domain here, right? And, from healthcare to social justice to energy sector and to agriculture. So in a sense, the what will happen when all of these networks can come together is the big potential that we are really seeing here. And let's also not remember, right? Let's not forget that today, much like the UPI model is being slowly getting adopted by various countries in Europe, we still have a possibility of in the global south, India dominating this this landscape by showing the pathway of creating these kind of open networks, which could then become a broader coalitions of networks. And that is where the Open AgriNet platform is there, which is again a global networks that is trying to bring together all the networks together here. So in a nutshell, right? If you really look down at the specifics of it, we are talking about what is the agri interface that is built on the Beacon protocol, and this is a community-led, and it is local, and the network it's an open network. So everyone is welcome in this there, and this will be eventually be integrated and interconnected with every other network that is there. So what are the key fundamental principles here, right? For us, a lot of people who are in this space, the inspiration is again internet. So the internet has been largely been an interesting architecture design where it can inclusive and it's include everybody here, right? So the idea is to borrow some of those principles and see what happens if we are able to bring them in this agricultural context now. Now, we are talking about a farmer at the center and then creating value for the farmers and the broader community here, right? Today, because of the limitations in the networks and the connectivity, we've had various designs where the farmers were not at the center. Even though we talk about farmers so much, but we all know in this industry that at a central level, at a fulcrum level, the farmers were not part of the design. So what is very, very exciting about this possibility is we are looking at a model where the farmer lies in the center and still has the ability to kind of maneuver and navigate through various levels of networks here. So just to reiterate, this is not an app or a platform here. It's a network that will integrate there, and we will try and break down every little silo that is possible there so that we are able to create a much bigger value here, right? Because think of it purely from a business and from a commercial lens, right? Today, I have, let's say, if I'm a platform, I have a certain set of network and platform people who are there in my network. Now, what is the possibility of exposing my customer base or my farmer base to the larger network here, right? And then can we then create a centralizing network where the farmers who are part of our networks can coexist both at the buyer end and the seller end. right? And that is the core of this design here that we are seeing. That we are talking about, to specifically, we are talking about two elements. One is, what we call as from a consumer end, and think about it from a demand end in terms of from the farmers choosing what all platform they want to engage in, and from the other end, from a service provider end, who are all integrated, and then all of them coming together to see in what ways each of these networks can come together, right? And the idea is to not create yet another app. The plan is to create a specific WhatsApp bot that can seamlessly be integrated with each of these systems. And that's the broader vision here. And we will see here that here all these service providers that are here, we will be they will be able to access the wider set of network farmers in the network, and we will be able to continuously also rate the services, right? Today, many I know many agripreneurs are there in the room today. Many agripreneurs face a lot of challenges with a specific buyer or a specific vendor who might have gone rogue, or who might have never let's say respected a PO or a purchase order, right? So what is the way today, if somebody comes in and offers something and then vanishes away, we don't have a certain way where we can rate these players here. Now, by bringing everybody into a network, we are able to create a possibility where we are able to not just to not just give them feedback, but also make sure that the system evolves and becomes better and better based on the feedback that comes in, right? Today, if I didn't behave well in an Uber ride, I could very well be given a bad rating by a driver. Or similarly, for if I had a bad experience with the driver, I could very well rate them in an Uber platform. But imagine this in an agri context where a farmer has been duped by a buyer who has promised something and then vanished away, right? We in the industry, those who worked in the industry, we know there are several cases that happen there. So how do we address these things? And that's where we all need to come together as a network. And that's one of the reasons where this is an important aspect that we plan to address in here. So essentially, as I said, there are two phases of this network. One is at the farmer end, the other is at the service provider end. And we are trying to create a win-win possibility for all the people from both ends of the spectrum, where the farmers would get to discover a various access to a wider pool of sellers and buyers for agri inputs, and not just from an input and also from an output. And they can also get access to all the service providers using a specific application here. In addition to this, of course, apart not just from an information wise, but we are also talking about access to logistics and warehousing. So this is not just at an information level. We are talking about real life infrastructure. If I am, let's say today, if I am a farmer in, let's say in Shamirpet, what are the nearest cold storage centers that are there? And if there is a network there, can I select the right cold storage network if I want to, let's say, hold my produce for a long period before I get the right price, right? So there are enough amount of possibilities that are there here. Similarly, from a service provider end, you could reduce the service delivery cost, right? Shashi, you were asking about the benefits, right? The aspect here is to reduce the service delivery cost and then create a scenario where 1 + 1 becomes 3 here, right? Because you are not just accessing your set of farmers here, but you're accessing a wider set of farmers who may not have been familiar with here, right? So it becomes a way for multiple players to come together and aggregate and co-create value here. So now the question that probably you might have is, can this be done while keeping access to your proprietary data? And the answer is, as we say, that's exactly is possible, because today we will address this in the FAQs there, but today the attempt can be made where these services can be brought together, where we will decide together, people who are in the part of the network can decide what are the terms in which you're going to share your value and you're going to get something out of return. So this is a fairly democratic setup that is there. Now, I might be talking so far about all the possibilities at an abstraction level, but I wanted to give you this example of one such network that has already has gone live in Kenya. This is the Kenya One network, where the folks in India would know the village level entrepreneurs. In Kenya, there has been one network where all the village level agripreneurs have been interlinked through the same protocol. And the idea here is to kind of bring together all of them in one network, and then access services, which includes e-learning and sale of imports, and whether talk about finance and logistics, and then asset utilization. So we are not talking about anything that is very much at an abstraction level or at an idea level. We are talking about something that is already live there, and each of these experiments that are happening, and because they are all come under one umbrella, there is also continuous learning that's happening between each of these networks. Today, we will be able to learn from what are these experiments that are happening in other places, and then learn from them and further evolve this platform here. Yeah. So I've spoken enough about what is a real life possibility. Now, very specifically in terms of Nasik, why Nasik was chosen, and I invite Sunilji to talk about it. Sunilji.
Yes, Venki.
Yes, sir. Please.
Yeah, I'm audible, right?
Yes, you are.
Yes. So thank you so much, Venki. Basically, the FIDE team, including Ketav, Katirvel, Bharat, they got in touch with us a couple of months ago, and it started as a Zoom call. So over Zoom, they were interacting with me and some other team members, and they were asking questions on how they could help Indian farmers. They had this kind of dialogue with multiple stakeholders. So I requested the FIDE team to come down to Nashik and interact directly with farmers themselves. So my submission to them was that I was sitting in an air-conditioned room, they were sitting in an air-conditioned room, and both of us were hypothesizing on what are the challenges that Indian farmers face and how FIDE or UI could help the Indian farmers. So I was very pleasantly surprised that within a week, the entire FIDE team and also the Spectrum Impact team, there is Mr. Mirik Gogri here in this picture. He is at the center there. He's the founder of Spectrum Impact, as well as one of the promoters of Aarti Group, which is a 24,000 crore group. It was very heartening to see that this entire team coming down to Nashik to understand the needs and the challenges being faced by Indian farmers. So we had conducted 3 sessions for the FIDE team. The first session was with the farmer producer organizations and some federations of farmer producer organizations. There is a local federation headed by a gentleman called Bhushan Nikam, as well as 20 other FPOs were in the room on that day. And it was a very good 2-hour interaction followed by lunch. And in the afternoon, the team had another 2 to 3 hour interaction with individual farmers. These are farmers who were chosen because they were cognizant with the usage of technology. They were early adopters. They were large farmers. So the team interacted with them for 2 to 2.5 hours. And after that, there was an interaction with startups who had turned up for interacting with the FIDE team. And that went on till 8 o'clock in the night. Next, please, Kadirman. So our request to the FIDE team was to set up the pilot for the UI project in Nasik. And everybody here is in ag, and Nasik is very important from the point of view of multiple commodities, including grapes, onions, pomegranates, lots of vegetables. So this district is a big supplier to Gujarat as well as to the city of Mumbai. It has a very strong agriculture infrastructure and a very big network of agri input dealers, consultants, advisory firms, a very strong banking network. People like Syngenta have a couple of 100 people on the ground in Nashik because of its importance. And Indigram Labs and its partner entities have a very good presence in this region. I also happen to be in Nashik for the last 18 odd months. So I am based here now after being in Delhi for 25 years. So I am also available as a volunteer assistant to Venki and team for this project. And we have reached out to various educational institutions here, and all of them are open to a partnership, including YC, MOU, KK-WAG, and others. Next, please. So after the roughly 6-7 hours of discussions with the farmers, these were the 15 points which emerged as things they would like UAI to intervene in. So it's a bucket list, and the first three have been highlighted here as use cases where the pilot would run till the month of March, after which the other areas would be taken up by one for solving. So agri advisory services doesn't need much explanation. There's equipment, machinery, rentals, as well as sales in this region, and aggregation centers, including pack houses, cold storages, and transportation and logistics services. So these are the use cases that have been selected for the pilot. The item number 7 was one of the things which Venki also referred to. So rating of buyers was mentioned as a very important requirement for the farmers from this geography, because for the last 40 years, this geography grows grapes, and every once in a while there is a fly-by-night trader of grapes who comes in to this area and disappears with a couple of crores of farmer dues. So they were looking at rating of buyers as one of the important areas where they wanted help and assistance. Technology can help with this. Kindly go to the next, please. So, meaning these were the points where the UI team is working on, and from a practical standpoint, even earlier, we have interacted a lot with the farmers, Venki and others on this call, and there was always this challenge. If you talk to any farmer, if you happen to come to Nashik, or for that matter, go into any village, and if you ask a farmer how many apps he uses that are related to agriculture, you may a farmer who is very technology savvy may at best be a user of 1 or 2 apps. And literally there are dozens of apps out there: Shopshan, Tractor Junction, Balwan, Behtar Zindagi, Arity, Plantix, Krishify, Digital Greens, Zarvio, Yara, Syngenta, UPL. I think there are more than 100 of apps, meaning corporations or startups providing products and services via their apps. The challenge is how many of these does the farmer use? So UI is a project which is here at the right time, like Shashi Bhatnagarji said. If we can pull this off, it will be a great miracle. And it puts the farmer at the center. It democratizes access and also makes access easy for the farmers. And for the startups and other service providers, it gives access to a very large pool of potential clients. So it's win-win all the way. So hopefully, with your help, with the help of all the people on this call, all of you would agree that the farmer needs to be the center of any ag experiments or any ag startup businesses that are running in India. So over to you, Venki.
Sure, thanks. I also want to emphasize one point here. Because when you might have seen my initial slides, you might have wondered, some of you might be running, your mind voice might be running, what is this guys talking about, all abstraction of network and all in high level. I really want to bring this down to a very dialogue from a very real perspective, right? Today, one of the biggest challenges is also price discovery, right? You will see that that's also the 9th use case that we have put together. Today, we are also exploring that possibility of how do we make sure that we all know, at least from an Indian agriculture standpoint, there's no reliable price discovery mechanisms here. We still cling on to old ways and methods, and there is no actual ways of realizing the right set of price here. So if this really comes together well, we can very well create a huge dent, and that is possible only when all of us can really come together and become a part of the network. And so that's one of the reasons where we really want to keep this call in a very open way. Feel free to challenge us in terms of saying this is all abstract, or if you have any such doubts, please bring it up so that we can really talk about what is it that. Yes, Arun.
So, Venki, Sunilji, thanks. I think quite informative. I have a couple of questions, and you pardon me if this is way out of the mark, but just a couple of points that came while you were speaking. One is, Venki, you did mention about the fact as to seamless transfer of data across platforms in one of your earlier slides. Now, in today's day and age, and especially with some of the corporates that I have worked with, where data is sacrosanct, and data has led to a lot of issues, crisis, more from a corporate reputation standpoint as well. How do we try and manage that? Because as I speak, we are also working with a couple of firms, helping them navigate through similar crisis where data has gone unattended and it has landed up at places where the owner of the data is extremely concerned about the fact. So that's one part. The second one is, you did mention about pricing, and in the present environment in the country where a lot of companies are facing challenges with regard to free pricing, as well as restricted introduction of new technologies because of a very closed market in that sense, from a pricing standpoint, not just from corporates, but also from various government departments or functions. How do we plan to get over that as well?
Okay. Yeah, we have a specific one on the data part, so we will touch upon that.
Sure.
I'll come to that and I'll address these questions.
Sure.
See, in terms of the overall plan, what we are planning is to once we are just finalizing and looking at the use cases, and we will be able to collaborate with each of these startups and create newer backend enabled user journeys, and then go live with build the underlying tech infrastructure and go live in the next 3 months. So the idea is to December 15th is where the pilot we want to go live with the initial use cases and then go. So we are operating in a fairly fast mode because we want to really test it out and really see how we can go forward there. So in terms of next steps, which is like, I'm sure some of you have already received these forms. If you are interested in there, we will send you more details there for people who are interested to become further part of it. We already have your now emails and names, so we will if you really want to be a part of it and you want to drive it in after Nasik, what next, right? If you want to drive, you're most welcome to share your thoughts, your suggestions, and how we can really scale this up. Now, as such, from the Nasik pilot wise, we will be sort of creating a very smaller group of people with whom we will be working closely with the set of local players, and then see how we can design the user flows so that, and we can map it with what the customer journey will look like from a farmer end, and then go live hopefully by the mid of December here. So I know we were talking about a lot of questions here, so I'll maybe address some of these questions. One of those questions is owned by the government. See, the key answer here is, we are looking at a scenario where each of these networks, because they are beacon enabled, and there is a certain level of enthusiasm, where among the among the joint secretaries and among there who are looking at some of these platforms and networks, because they do also understand what benefits we get. So this is not going to be owned because in that sense, in the traditional sense, but we will look at ways where this will come in with the right set of with the right set of blessings and create the right pathways that will enable it to scale. So that is the first thing. I know I received a lot of questions around that. So that's the first thing. Second thing is, what is the business model? This is where it ties into the Arun's question here, which is, see, today in this model, we are looking at a model where we are not really everything pre-planning it, right? If you really go back to the original, the fundamental principles, right? We are looking at a design of that is, initially a traditional understanding of business models is what is already curated and pre-organized. But from there, we are moving towards a model just self-organizing, right? Because as and when the networks come together, there will be a network facilitator who will come together and decide what is the right way in which the members can come together as a consortium and then create that right set of models, right? This is what we've seen in other examples here. And I think if Bharat is here, Bharat could also share in from other other industries and examples here. So I'll maybe with these two ones I'll specifically also maybe if there are any more specific questions there, I would love to get in some more questions there so that we could really have a more focused conversation here.
Hey Venki, this is Venki Swaminathan here.
Yes, Venki.
Yeah, thanks for the
I can't see you though.
You don't want to see me. I've
Okay,
been
no
fighting
problem. Please
the
go ahead.
last 2 days. My question, just curious. I was just going through the use cases that collected from the farmers. There is usually in Indian markets, I've usually seen there's a huge trust gap between farmers and the ecosystem, in terms both from the seller side and the buyer side. Was there any discussions on standardization of procurement processes or sale processes in terms of grading the products and also creating escrow-like services to fill that trust gap? And the way I'm coming from this is, I've been interacting very closely with farmers in the US. The procurement process is very, very, very standardized. And that takes away a lot of the friction that exists in terms of, agreeing upon a grading of your corn product or vegetables or whatever. And then the buyer agrees to that grade because it's all already been preset and standardized on. So my question here is that part of the, do you envision that as part of the scope of this network creation? Because if you're looking for a lot of players to play, we need to set some standards so everybody plays by the same rule. That's where I'm coming from. It's a broad question, but I'm wondering just if you're just curious.
I think it's an important question here. See, the way we are looking at this through the lens of the Beacon protocol, right? Beacon protocol has already created a very fundamental element of two layers there. What is what we call as the buyer side and the seller side, right? Like at one end, I'm trying to use as less tech jargons here. So at one end, you have there is a certain request, let's say a farmer, right? I talked about that specific use case here, right? There is a farmer who is making a particular request about, let's say, to a particular application. Now, the information that will go from, let's say, a particular one application or platform to the network will be, will have that common underlying layer, which can be picked up by any other network. So that is where your standardization part gets addressed here. Right? We are not talking, let's say, if there is a knowledge packet that has been coming in from one particular application, how will it flow in to other system in a way that can seamlessly recognize in each other, right? And we are only trying to create this sort of matchmaking here in some sense between what does one side is some kind of a request in there. So yes, Bharat is also here. Bharat, you please go ahead. You may want to go down to more specifics here.
Yeah, thanks, Venki, and thanks, Venki, yes, for the question. Your point about grading and standardization of products, either for sale or for purchase, from the farmer, is pretty valid, and this is something that came up during our discussions as well. They clearly mentioned that it is a problem for them when they have to list it on a platform, right? So that the pricing is accordingly allocated, and some of the times the pricing is controlled by the platform owners and not the farmers, so there's a disconnect there, and therefore the trust breaks. What the a solution that was discussed but might not be there in the immediate scope, immediate in the next, as in the next 2 months or 3 months, would be to bring in sort of the certifiers or the standardization bodies to come and provide those as one service on the network itself. Anyone who has produced that they want to sell, either offline or on online, could use that as could discover, access, and then get the service to get the certificates for their products. So that is one way we can go about it. The alternate is that the platforms which list the farmers produce will automatically start viewing this as one of their value adds, right? Build more trust, build more the way they kind of standardize how they present your produce to the rest of the markets. So I think those are the two areas that we normally see in the product space, at least. Digging a little deeper into what Venki was mentioning about standardization in Beacon, that is a simpler process because Beacon allows for credentials, certificates, and so on and so forth to be passed from between any two platforms during the transaction. So in case some of the produce that the farmers are listing has a certificate and that can be digitally transferred, then that can be added in to the message packet, which then becomes a trust layer for the person who's buying the produce.
Thanks, Bharat. I think this is really helpful. Let me also, I'm just going through the messages also here. Are there folks who really don't understand what ONDC is and what ONDC is? Could I get some kind of show of hands there? Are there folks who are completely new and not really aware of what is there? Because I really wanted to get into a lot of nuances here for people who are already in there. So just want to see if there is anyone has any fundamental question on there. Okay, I see some hands here. Okay. See, today, like the fundamental element here when it comes to ONDC is maybe Bharat can chime in here. Bharat is the technical person here, but broadly, from an Amazon kind of a universe, right? Can we move into a which is a walled garden where there is only one set of players who are dictating terms and moving in? From there, can we create an open network of e-commerce players where we will simultaneously identify the buyers and sellers and enable seamless transaction? So that is the shift we are talking about from an Amazon kind of a universe to an open network universe, which is where ONDC is. That's in a nutshell here. I also want to, before I bring in Anoop's question here, I also want to go back to, I'll talk specifically about Arun's question around finance side, and I mean Arun's question around data side. We will touch upon that. Okay. Yes, Anup.
Hi, Venki.
Hi, Anup. How are you?
All good, all good. Based on what I've heard so far, it's basically a platform where it's an infrastructure, underlying infrastructure, which startups can build upon on a hyperlocal level and use that network to verify, rate, provide more services to the farmers in general. Is that all? Does that cover it in a nutshell, or is there more when it comes to that?
Yeah, the idea you've covered in a nutshell, that's the idea. The idea is to create that kind of open network where we will seamlessly bring farmer in the center and then interface with multiple systems at scale. So that is
Got
the crux of the idea in a certain sense.
Got it. No, because
What I put together is in a certain sense, this is the broader idea of how each of these systems will interface and talk with each other, and then let the farmer without asking them to move to different apps, can they seamlessly move to different players, parts of the network, without asking them to move to different apps. Right now every farmer, like what Sunilji was saying, can only move to one or two specific apps there. So yeah.
And that's like the general idea as a user, irrespective of whatever networks and industries I am in. I will not prefer to move around in 5 different apps to solve a particular problem, right? So every region has a strong presence when it comes to a particular agri-tech working there. So
Sure.
another question which I had was in terms of when we speak
1 second
to
before we answer that, let me also check. Bharat, if you want to add anything specifically to this in terms of what is the bigger vision there, anything specific you may want to add in?
Yeah, I think just a small nuance, Anup, is that if anybody, even in the group here who's listening in, today you might be working on a monolithic platform model, right? You as a central entity is bringing together a buying entity and a selling entity and making that match for whatever product and service. But if you can logically split the two, your buying entity essentially is just looking for an interface to say, I want something. That something could be a product, a service, information, whatever it might be. The selling entity is also saying, I have a list of things to sell, similarly product services. So that match is being made one-on-one within a small circle, which is the platform, right? But if you logically separate the two and then make sure that multiple such logical separations of platforms can interact with each other because all of them speak the same language of backend, then you as a aggregator of, let's say, buyers, because you have a few of them already on your platform, can expose them to a variety of services, not just the products and services on your existing platform. So that range broadens, so your customers are able to buy more things, see more things, and therefore they spend more on your platform, hence decreasing your customer acquisition
So
cost.
this architecture, this network, so let's say we have an app, many of you also do.
Yeah.
We can base the app on the on the foundation of this network, or how is it going to be?
Precisely. So
Okay.
your platform essentially gets a simple addition in terms of a specification. You're implementing a specification, a bunch of APIs and a schema associated with
Right.
that.
Right.
Similarly, you're expecting other platforms to also do the same so that they can respond to your queries. As simple as
Yeah, because collaboration in agri-tech, I'm not seeing a lot of collaboration in at least our level of startups out there. Find it tough because mostly of the logistical issues, reasons, multiple reasons are there which exist, which kind of prevent collab to actually succeed.
Yeah.
So I think this will help there as well. And another thing was a use case which we recently, at least for a year, we have.
Could we have a further question there, because there's other more people and then coming in.
Sure. No, I'll quickly ask it. It's a use case where we are kind of trying to persuade farmers to switch their crop into a better grown one, because I mean West Bengal paddy is like everywhere, and all the farmers are not getting good return there. Still, they are stuck to paddy. And one of the big questions which comes up is, if we grow something else, who will buy? Because nothing else, people don't buy anything else in this particular geography. The entire eastern belt.
So we are looking at both input and output here from a procurement wise. So it is very well there. See, the point you mentioned around why collaboration is not happening is where we really found it useful to really mull over and get this done there. Because in a way, we are not able to, like today in the industry is such, everybody wants to become either full stack because there's no way where people are collaborating in. And so we want to create that network where ecosystem comes into fore and they're there. So, I also want to address, I think there was a question from Kishore. Can you throw light on the finance segment penetration? That's a very broader question, Kishore, but I just want to briefly say that we are right now talking about specific use cases where credits to MSME entrepreneurs based on the data that gets collected is very much, is in the cards. So how do you make sure that the pre-credit scores and what are the ways in which you can collect credit, give a good assessment of the credit, which can be given from an MSME perspective and individually from a retailer and there. So that is also very much in the card. So we will address it, but not immediately there, but at a later stage, it will definitely come in there. Yes. Yes, Sriram.
Hi, Venki. Thanks. Maybe I'm asking a very maybe simple question. So as a farmer, I just want to understand the workflow of it. As a farmer, I have an issue in my farm, and I want to maybe contact Yara for fertilizer recommendation or UPL for a pesticide recommendation. So how does this workflow happen in this platform? So this UAI is kind of a super app, or how does the workflow happen in this case?
See, we are not thinking about it from a sense of a super app kind of a mental model.
Okay.
We are looking at it as right now UAI, think of it as the hyperlocal arm for ONDC. Right, that's the sort of broader picture here. And then now there are multiple players. So let's say if a farmer has an issue, let's say for a chili crop, right? Because you deal with chili. Now that farmer has a issue, he gets into there, he takes photo, and either if he directly is part of, let's say, Plantex or any other app, he directly reaches out to that, or if he wants to identify who are any specific advisory players related to chili near Guntur through Vistar, he will be able to identify them and get that set of advisory. Now, while that advisory is being done, then there is a next step of, okay, now what are the inputs do I need, right? So now from that, automatically the application will be able to seamlessly move towards what is at an ONDC or any other platform where the inputs could be stored. So that is the kind of seamless transitioning what we are right now envisaging in, and we are building on.
So it's an hype. So we can think if say suppose you are doing a pilot in Nashik. Say tomorrow, say it is in Guntur. So it's like it should be some kind of a super app kind of a thing in that for the hyper local geography, right? Or how does it work out?
Yeah. So at the hyper local end, that will be the core app where. Sorry, so was there somebody saying something else? Okay.
Yeah, I was trying to ask one question. Anyways, to complete that, then
I'll just finish and I'll just please you.
Yeah.
So, one last point is, see, since we are talking about a community-led and a local one, I know Deepak Ji is also here. Deepak Chavan Ji is an influencer who is working closely in the Nashik belt.
Yeah.
So now we are building, and Mahesh Russell is our farmer ecosystem lead, who is also driving, engaging, creating the kind of right set of engagements with the farmer end. So we will be also working on this from a ground up where farmers are familiar with what the use cases are and how do they get the right set of access and then. So we are not just building tech and hoping that it will be magically reach the end consumer. We are working on both sides of the spectrum, and that's where we've also reached out to a lot of local influencers, specifically in the case of Nashik, because we want to create that certain level of trust, and in a trust that is encompassing both ends, right? Trust not just at the farmer end, but trust also at the service provider end. Yes, Shailaja, you had a question.
Yeah, actually, what I could understand, because I'm a novice here, what I could understand is you're trying to build a layer. Just correct me if this thing is wrong.
No problem. We are all novices only, don't worry.
Yeah. So I was just trying to understand, saying that you're trying to create a layer, super layer, so that there is a seamless transition, seamless this thing for the farmers. Farmer is the centric, this thing over there, where you are trying to give him all the comfort. Like if he's getting into one app, it is not just that app which is going to suffice him. Probably he has got something else on the other app. You're trying to create a layer where he can reach conveniently to the other app and take the benefit. Is that so?
Not in a nutshell, yes, you are right. That's the broader idea that we are striving for. That farmer doesn't have to feel trapped in one application, and even then seamlessly whatever. See, it's like the farmer is using the app to solve a particular problem. Now,
Yes.
what happens is when the farmer gets when they're using a particular app, the app tries to say this is how the problem has to be solved.
Yes.
But we may not be very sure as to is this the right way there. So the farmer also doesn't have that certain choice element of seeing is my problem getting solved or I'm only trying to use the app here.
Yes. Yes.
So the idea is to really, and that's what we talked about on the first principles here, right? That it's product centric. We are talking about element here that is purpose centric. Right? We are talking about element that is not specifically to one product, but looking at what is this purpose, what is the problem that we're trying to solve, and can we create a seamless transaction that can solve that problem?
Okay. Got
Great.
it.
Thanks.
Got it.
Naren, yes, Naren.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey, Venki. So yeah, I mean, in similar lines, I mean, me, you, and I've also discussed this with Sunil Ji. We have also been involved in building a similar kind of an infrastructure for multiple services to the farmer at Reapmore, right? So one of the areas, I mean, especially, I mean, the farmer belt that you're talking about, Nashik belt, where most of the farmers are how do I say, they are the first adopters of any technology, and in that case them adopting this technology directly is the best case scenario. But the other parts of India where you had mentioned it in another slide, like there would be a local entrepreneur of sorts who will bring the network of farmers onto this platform. In that case, what I have seen and what is this is also another use case which has been flying out across wherever beacon protocol is being used is those entrepreneurs or those players sometimes end up taking the network that they are bringing in, they become a hostage. It's like they kind of become the eclipse where everything has to go through them. So how do we, I mean, probably from a beacon protocol, we could also have others also answer this, but how do we handle that wherein that one bottleneck through whom the whole benefits is flowing through to the farmer level is handled? This is I'm talking about these areas where farmers would not be adopting this tech directly, but it has to flow in through some facilitator of sorts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand. See, first of all, we have a specific use case on an entrepreneur platform. The idea is to not make it hostage and at the same time determine for each of the network players there, determine to what extent they can collaborate in, right? I'll give you a very classic example. Ola Uber has not joined ONDC for their ride hailing, but for food delivery, they have joined ONDC. Okay. Now that is a classic use case. That's what I was alluding to when I showed this diagram there. This might have see now the player here, Ola, Uber, or specifically here, I'm just giving this as an example, right, to illustrate this point that the companies or the part of the network says they can determine to what extent in which they can embed themselves with the network, right? So we are not trying to sort of force fit in terms of saying as a socialism kind of way where you have to be part of them. Now, whatever you are bringing to the network, you are bringing in, you will receive that benefit there, right? But obviously
that kind of defies the whole principle, right? So, talking the similar lines, Namayatri is the one who has bought in for the last mile transport. They have bought an ONDC, but now they are, let's say, they are charging in 25 rupees per day as the charging fees. Now they quadruple that. They are holding the whole network hostage. Like, it's not that over a night there is going to be another player who's going to be coming onto the network and building an end-to-end infrastructure which will handle all the requests, right? So again, isn't this kind of becoming a bottleneck?
See,
the player whom are going to be interesting for, who's going to be like your last mile arm, isn't he or she going to be the bottleneck?
It's a very, very important question. We will see from our current understanding, we are talking about a scenario where, and maybe Bharat can add into this here. We are talking about a scenario where if you are going to see, I initially talked about the aspect of what is the business model, right? Initially, we are
Venki,
looking
you
at.
want me to take over?
Yes, Bharat, please.
Yeah. Hey, Naren, thanks for pointing it out. There are rare situations, specifically in the mobility side today, where transactions seem to be happening between the same entity, right? You gave the example of Namayatri. But it is not because, I mean, the perception is that Namayatri is the only player who can onboard drivers, who can set up the platforms for operations on an open network. It is unfortunate that no one else has joined in, at least at the last mile stage. But organizations such as metros have already jumped in. So you have optionality in terms of service, not it's limited in terms of cabs and autos, right? That is one point. Second point, it is always the design of the network to have multiple different platforms offering similar services.
Correct,
right?
correct.
In ONDC, in the commerce side, you can see that very clearly. You have multiple different organizations who are all providing food delivery as restaurant onboarders, and you have multiple organizations who are all asking customers to come and buy from there, right? And then interaction happens in cross-end. So
Yeah,
the
makes sense,
design for this space
sense.
in the
Like,
agri
as a
sector will also
network-
be similar. We'll
as a
have
network,
more
this
than
is
one.
not a problem.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
No,
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So as a network, I understand. I mean, from the same lines, like I understand the technology side of things. From the network, there's nothing fault. It's just that I've also been trying to ask that question. How do we define that as well? How do we like take that also out of the picture where someone can be a bottleneck? I mean, Namayatri
Yeah,
is a clear example, because they have to also raise a ton of money to market themselves, and that's how they stay in business. So
Correct.
anyone who adopts this, the network that we have currently presenting, like UAI, the first few adopters again would end up being the bottleneck, so to speak. That's what my fear is. I mean, we'll have to solve that problem as we kind of build this.
Yeah, but they become a bottleneck only if every additional participant comes in and joins only that one platform, which is not always the case, right?
Okay.
Every additional participant can come in and plug in their own platform into the network, in which case you're building more endpoints or nodes on the network for people to go and hit. So that's basically how we are approaching this. We are not asking
Makes
everybody
sense.
to jump into one point, which will, give access into the network,
Yeah.
both on the provider and the buyer side. It will always be the case that, hey, you have an existing platform, please beacon enable it. Do not strive for building a new platform which everybody else can jump into.
Yeah, I mean, this would be
Yeah,
a
so Naren, I'll just to
conversation
add
with
one
Venki.
last
I will
point.
have a offline call, but
Yeah.
Sure.
let's proceed.
So Naren, just one last point is, see, the idea is also to come together where the network participants together decide what is the right way in which they are going to store the network data there, right? Like, for instance, can we put together a model where at a certain level, the infrastructure costs, how they are coming together, all of that is there, but beyond which, right, it is still an experiment. You're going to figure out to see how to make it as open network as possible. And so we are learning in from the existing experiences there. So yeah, thank you. Yes, Sandeep.
Can I add something, Venki?
Oh, 1 second, Venki. I'll just finish the Sandeep question and then maybe we'll come to you, please.
Okay, thanks.
Hi, Venki, this is Sandeep. Yeah,
Hi, Sandeep.
thanks for all the information. Sorry, I can't join the video. Sorry about that.
No problem.
So, I think there is a lot of value in what you're trying to do, I think, and I think I'm trying to make sense out of it. I'm trying to kind of like see how can I visualize what you're trying to do. Is LinkedIn a good example that you're trying to create? LinkedIn for farmers? Or is it more like an underlying service that, like a technical service layer that you're trying to create for various apps? But then if you're trying to do that, then how do you collaborate with all participants and build this instead of building this as a separate task?
Sure. So let me give you a LinkedIn specific example to explain this.
Yeah.
Right? Today, whatever my network in LinkedIn, I can't take that outside LinkedIn. Okay. Let's say if there is any other platform, I can't take that in. So how do we take whatever the data, the network data that is there in LinkedIn, whatever my network graph is, can I take it in other places? Can I take it to another place where my whatever is my skill sets or whatever the data that's there, can I share it and transpose it to another place? So that is the attempt there. So in a way, today, right now, LinkedIn data stays in LinkedIn and doesn't go exit LinkedIn at
No,
all.
no, that's fine. I understand that. So LinkedIn is an example. Don't take it as a business entity.
Yeah, I understand.
For example, it was not a business entity, it was an open network, then anyone can move anything anywhere. That's what
Correct.
you're trying to say.
Correct.
So it
Yes.
is like LinkedIn from a build perspective. So what will you build in the next 3 months? Will you build only the service layer which will not have any UI components, or you will actually build something which somebody will be able to interact with through some apps?
See, we are not building a social network like LinkedIn. We are building specifically for the next 3 months. These 3 use cases that you see in the screen right now will be built, and in this the network will slowly be enabled in there, specifically in Nasik. Now
Okay.
from this,
Venki, let
afterwards
me-
we will go and build it further.
So I think one point I want to make is like, I understand you'll take these 3 use cases and start building for that, but you'll have to have a design philosophy that you'll follow, right? That you can actually accommodate everything towards the end. You can't start without a design philosophy which is specific to 3 things and then just expect everything else to fall in place.
See, the design philosophy is that of the protocol here, where is creating an open network here. And that is the fundamental principle. We are not looking at the design philosophy that is centric and specific to a use case here. We are talking about a design philosophy that's an open network which is seamless and interoperable and can be federated. Right? Bharat, you want to add anything to this, please?
Yeah. So Sandeep, I'll jump one step back. You had asked for analogies of what we are trying to do here,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
I'll give you 2 analogies, see if it tries and you can try and make sense out of it. The first one is emails, right? You had different entities. We'll name a few called Gmail, Hotmail, and Yahoo.
Yeah.
All of them deciding to join in and say, I will send you information over the same protocol called SMTP because it gives me a same structure, same details, etc. Everyone can understand. Otherwise, I'll have to have created a Gmail account, a Yahoo account, and a Hotmail account for individual information sharing, correct? Make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that I follow, but I think
Okay, cool.
do you
So
have further
in
to
the
say?
same-
Please say, then I'll add. Yeah.
I'll just finish that. So in the same vein, when Venki said we are going to build based on these use cases, Venki and I are not going to sit and create a platform to get all of this together in one spot. What we are trying to do is invite platforms that already exist or organizations that want to build a slightly new platform in order to start communicating amongst each other, except that in this case they're not just sending one piece of information. They're going to be following an entire order life cycle from discovery to ordering to fulfillment to post fulfillment, in order to make sure that the buyers and the sellers are able to transact between each other.
Totally. So my point is this: you will be creating some interfaces for people to talk to, right?
The
Whether-
participants will be creating an interface. We do not have a say in what they do.
So technically, so let's say you take these 3 services that you are talking about and you start building in the next 3 months.
Sure.
What exactly will you be building?
The team that we're talking about, Venki plus a lot of folks from other supporting organizations, will be setting up this orchestration function of various organizations coming in and saying, I will play the role of a seeker platform. I will aggregate customers. I will give them an interface in order to search, select, buy, rate, etc. On the other side, there will be other platforms who will say, I will onboard sellers like your warehouses, your cold storage units, or your machinery rental guys, and say, create a catalog and manage the orders for that catalog.
Okay.
And then these two or these N cross M entities will start transacting across each other.
Right. So you will be like, if I put it simply, you will be like, sorry, don't take me wrong, that is for the sake of argument.
Yeah.
You will be having a search engine kind of thing for selecting services. You will have some other services that will go along with the searching and picking, choosing, and things like that, right? Like, if I'm getting that right?
Yeah, again, I think all of these will again get pushed into the nodes. Every single piece that you're talking about are features of a platform, correct?
Correct. So
all of these get pushed into the nodes or those participating platforms.
Correct.
As the orchestrators, all we do is we have a central infrastructure layer which broadcasts, the initial discovery phase, and then that's it. It's all peer-to-peer from there. We
So-
don't even get into any of it up beyond that.
So what I'm saying is all these nodes which will be interacting with your services infrastructure,
Yeah.
these nodes will be interfacing through an interface, some technical interface, right?
Through a specification, through APIs.
So APIs, that's what I mean by interface.
Yeah, sure.
Interface, right?
Yeah.
So if the API, so that API should be something that a bunch of people or market participants should agree on.
Sure. That's
So how do you make sure that these APIs that you're constructing is an effort where number of participants from different areas are coming together to define these APIs?
Yeah, so the APIs have already been written. They're called backend protocol. This is an open specification. It's been available since 2019 and it's already being used in various other networks, which we already discussed earlier, right? Now, the first question you may ask is, how do you know that this is valid for the use cases that we're discussing? First point is that every participant who comes in does their own validation to say, this is my use case or user journey. This is the flow that we want to implement. Can the specification implement this, right? There's a assessment that happens and it goes through that process of, yes, this is possible. No, this is not possible. Let's add it in. So you have a process of evolution of that protocol itself. Till now, from what we've seen across various sectors, right? Commerce, mobility, logistics, healthcare, energy, the protocols continues to support 90% of all of these use cases.
Okay.
Agree inclusive.
Yeah. Sandeep would really request you could take this further offline. Thank you.
I've got tons of questions.
Please feel free to see the idea
Sorry
of
about
creating
that.
this kind of a forum is to have a space where all these questions, doubts are addressed. So feel free to reach out to all of us and we will really try our best to answer all the questions here.
Venki,
One second. I just want to be Venki, you had a question there. Yes, Venki. Before I bring in
I was
Shashi and
listening
everyone.
I was just listening to everybody's, and I was kind of envisioning in my mind how I envision this network to work, right? I'm going to role play three stakeholders here: a farmer, a retailer is selling, say, nutrients, and a technology company providing say, soil nutrient map, right? So if let's start with the farmer. Farmer wants to order a spraying of nutrients in his farm. We call it variable rate, not a exact same, but it's something called a prescription, where which you can customize what you're spraying in your farm based on the soil. So there is a technology company that's providing a hyperspectral imagery of your farm that has mapped the soil and has got a soil nutrition map. Now, when the farmer wants to order this spray, he is interacting with an app from the retailer to place the order. But the retailer needs the farmer identity information, the farmer farm information, and also needs a soil nutrient map. And these are provided by 3 different companies. They're all different technology companies providing different services or capabilities like farm identity services or soil nutrition map services. So what the way I envision is that when the farmer orders this customized nutrition product for spraying in his farm, the retailer app automatically uses backend protocol to communicate, to get information from these other apps in terms of what is the farm, where is the farm, what's the soil nutrition map look like, and then customizes and delivers that order for that farmer. It all happens magically behind the scenes. And I think the success of the network will be that it happens behind the scenes. Nobody knows how it works. It's behind the scenes. But that is how I envision this happening as you create this critical mass of ecosystem of partners interacting with each other using the backend protocol. Very similar to how network payments are working today, right? You just pay person A pays person B, irrespective of who are all the middle players in between. They all communicate through the backend protocol, exchange information, and then with the tap of your button, you pay with your Google Pay app. That's kind of the similar I'm envisioning for a farmer. And behind the scenes, there is so many other interactions happen where the companies providing different services, but that multiplies the farmers' adoption of these kind of services because all of them work together in using a common protocol like backend. Does that make sense? Does it how?
Yeah, which is what which is what you've spoken about in the way we try to sketch this out, right? Like at the end of the day, a farmer has his set of identities, a set of assets, and then there are networks. Now, the set of identities is where all the various credentials will come in terms of the farmer ID or in terms of the land and in terms of the equipments. And then there are certain set of assets that I have, right? It could be a drone or it could be a rotavator or it could be any specific application. Now, can I orchestrate between these two and create and then create in terms of whatever is the use case, the problem that a farmer wants to solve through an open network?
Yeah. So the starting points I see here is creating, bringing in players on the spread network to create two things, which is very basic: farmer identity and farm information. And the reason I'm saying is that's what we are doing in FarmGrid here as well. Because when it comes to anything I want to do in terms of delivering value to the farmer, what we're seeing is I need to know what the farm is, what the field is, what they grow, and all that. So that it'd be important for us to identify and bring in partners into this network who are willing to create that. And I'm happy to talk more about it.
Understood. Yeah, that's the larger idea there. Yeah, yes. Thank you. Yes, Shashi.
I was just trying to add to what Bharat was saying in terms of how to view this. I think Sandeep asked this question. I mean, at the closest example I can get to is something like a Ethereum kind of a protocol based. It's establishing a digital infrastructure. It's building the right kind of protocols for the stakeholders. They have identified the stakeholders. You identify the use cases. You build the protocols, which will require a lot of standard building and procedures and standard operating procedures and all kind of things. But it's about creating that kind of a network of protocols which are able to provide that kind of a standardization and exchange of value, whether it's through data or it can be through services, on the same protocol, which backend can do, because that is the way the protocol is designed.
Yes,
Right?
and the idea is to look at it not just from India but also globally, because India is also looking at it from a geopolitical lens there. So that's the broader idea there. It's still at a very high level, but yes. Yes, Tarun.
Yeah, hi, Venki. I think you might have touched upon this in the presentation, but I just want to get clarified on one thing, which is there are multiple open networks on the agriculture space, right? There is agri part in ONDC itself. I mean, there is agri efforts within ONDC. Then there is Vistar, which you mentioned. There is AgriStack from the government side, and I mean there are a couple of more like this, right? So I mean, I just want to understand UAI, how is it different than others in terms of like what are the overlaps which it will have with other networks, open networks, and what are the additional thing that UAI will do basically from this network?
See, think of this is what we spoke about earlier. Think of UAI as a hyperlocal arm of ONDC. Then Vistar is specifically looking at the advisory and looking at from an information dissemination mechanism. So that's how all of these systems will interface with each other. So this hyperlocal arm will be established and will be set up in multiple places, and multiple local hyperlocal pods will be created, and they will all seamlessly be integrated.
I think I am not able to visualize the hyperlocal part, because let's say there is a private player on ONDC who is creating this hyperlocal network on ONDC itself, right? I mean, let's say there is a player who is working in Nashik, for example, and he's already part of ONDC as a network. will he be also creating similar thing that UI is trying to create here, or is it different than that basically?
See, maybe Bharat can chime in here, but my understanding is that currently, if anybody who is, we will right now build this, we are building this in a way where while ONDC is getting built, we will eventually get integrated in all of them so that the users can seamlessly move between different platforms. Now, it could be in the sense of today at ONDC, there could be at a national level a certain set of networks that the person would be there. But at a local level, what is it that the person is trying to interface and what are the use cases that he is dealing in? That's where a UI will come. So if he is, let's say if there is a specific farmer in that region that they want to do a specific level of transaction, that is where a UI come in. But from that, if the person wants to take that produce and sell it to, let's say, a mandi in Delhi, in Azadpur Mandi, now through UI, there should be a seamless transition for him to sell that produce to a Azadpur Mandi. I'm just giving a random example here. So now that kind of transitioning will also require that there is a price discovery that happens also in this platform.
Yeah, Venki, I mean, just to answer to Tarun.
Yes.
So the way this would work, you have already, let's say that you are already connected to, let's say, 10,000 farmers, but you don't have a feature in your phone where you can feature in your app where a farmer can take a photo and get the best out of it. What UAE will enable you is, through their network, you can probably access Plantix services and you can offer that as a service to your 10,000 farmers. So again, you would have to spend to reach to onboard those many farmers, or you have to be one of those service givers. So again, it's between two applications. That's where UAE helps. So it kind of enables you to offer a lot more services than what you already have. Did that make sense?
Correct. So if I'm only a Plantix user farmer who is using a particular application, now the same set of farmers will have multiple options to select multiple players across mechanization or ADOS context. So automatically your Venn diagram and your pie becomes bigger. And that as the pie gets bigger, everybody in the network also further benefit from it. So that's the idea here. Yeah. Yes,
But
Rajiv.
just one addition there. The pie becomes bigger. Yes, through that one Plantix app, the farmer can probably also get the farm mechanization, provided Plantix is ready to add that part into their app through the UAE network.
Right now, I can tell you that Plantix is much more gung-ho to be a part of UAI. So that the intent is to create this bigger pie. So there is, of course, I can't speak on behalf of Plantix here, but there is a certain significant intent here. Yes.
That was an example. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Yes. Yes, Rajiv.
Venki, can you take me to the use case, right?
Sure.
From the finances perspective, I wanted to understand the timeline by when we can actually start contributing, and are we planning to create the entire ecosystem, as you said, all machine manufacturers will be there. So do we have the timeline for this, the second one?
So these first three use cases, the timeline is December 15th is what we are planning in to get the initial version out and get the pilot out for the first three use case. Based on this, we will further update and evolve further.
Okay.
Yeah.
Venki, one question,
yes,
what exactly will you deliver for this?
Sorry, I'm not able to identify who is asking this question.
This Sandeep actually, sorry
yes,
about
Sandeep,
that.
1 second. Let me give it to Biswajit and then come to you. He's been waiting for long. Yes, Biswajit. Biswajit, you're on mute.
Yeah, all right. So this is very timely, Venki. I think it's fantastic. I think I get the ecosystem building, thought process behind it. So just one question. There are two questions rather. So in this Nashik pilot, are you running only a product specific pilot like grapes or something, or any farmer, any product you're just trying to, or any kind of service, that's what you're trying to run. And
No, we are not looking at any product specific here. We are looking at everything in terms of, but for start off with, we want to begin this with these 3 use cases.
Okay. And second question is, what is the use case that you're actually driving from the FPOs, farmer producer companies perspective? What exactly is the use case?
The idea is for these 3 use cases, how do we enable them to access them and make it easier for them to get their services done and create value and exchange value?
Okay. So if a farmer producer company with 500 members, if it has a, say, tractor, can he render the tractor as a service, or tractor, use as a service to the other farmers who are in the network? Maybe that kind of use case that you're driving?
Yes, we will, when we do a rating, we will look at to that aspect also, right? Because there is a significant request in terms of what farmers definitely want to do rating there, which we talked about earlier also. So that is there. Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll also just look into See, the aspect here is UAI, ONDC, I want to just also touch upon what Tarun was asking, right? We will eventually, everything will get integrated. The idea is to not create again silos among these networks. The idea is to create these very seamless and seamless transition there, and so that's where we are driving in there. Yes, Swapnil.
Yeah, just one question. Let's suppose if I want to integrate Plantix into my systems and into my application, how is it going to be different than me directly going to Plantix, getting their API, paying them directly, and otherwise using your network, the protocol, and how will Plantix will be getting money out of this? What would be the processes?
Okay. See, the aspect here is when you become a part of the network, and through that network, you can very well facilitate the transition, not just from an individual one. You may want to integrate with Plantix. Plantix is already in ONDC. So you could very well, create, when you're joining in ONDC, you will automatically, the network linkage gets hammered. But here we are not talking about an individual level. Individually, there is a certain level of value aggregation, demand aggregation is happening at these networks. And then depending on whosoever is fulfilling these demand, the payments and the money will come in there. Yeah.
So ultimately, the Plantix would be responsible for taking out the money. They can decide how much they want to charge.
Yeah, see, in terms of who is fulfilling the value there. So in terms of the network will bring together the players, and then depending on who is coming in and recognizing the value, that's where we are coming in.
Understood.
Yeah. Okay. There's also a question and email in the chat from Yogmaya Verma. I'm not sure if she's here. I missed her. Access to Amazon through a single app. Okay. Yeah, I think that's been answered. Okay. Any further questions?
So Venki, I was trying to raise a point.
Yes, Sandeep, please.
Yeah. So okay, now I'm still struggling to understand what you own in this whole thing, right? Do you own the protocols? Do you own the network? If it is the network, because network is a bit like, somebody, every business creates their own network, right? That's one thing. So let's say I have a business which basically provides services to the farmers, right? So if I create my own app, I'll create I'll try to basically onboard a bunch of customers, which is farmers on it, and that's going to be my network. So if you're trying to make a network available, how does it become Naim network until they know me and I know them, right? So my point is, let's say if you take an example of LinkedIn as well, it's just a bunch of my friends and my colleagues, business colleagues, that becomes my network. So if you give us only a searching capability for a bunch of service providers, that's not a network. That's just a search facility. So either are you providing a network, which is basically everyone can go and create their own networks, and you have this underlying, all you own is the protocol, underlying protocol. So I'm just getting confused between this terminology. Do you own the protocol or the network?
Okay. Protocol is the common underlying layer here, right? That has made it possible for us to seamlessly transition between different networks. So
who owns that?
nobody owns it. It belongs. FIDE is the one who scripted it, and maybe Bharat can add into it. So this is anybody today. It's an open. You can go to the GitHub, find out the ways how to build your application into a beacon, and you can very well do that. So it is in a certain sense a commons, right? I don't know how much familiar with the word there, but broadly it's a commons there, and then we build on networks on top of those protocols here.
But then we still have to define who owns that. Otherwise, we are like going on a level above without defining who owns it.
See, in a
Hey, Venki, maybe I'm happy to come in here.
yes, please.
Hi, this is Ketav Mehta.
Yes,
I'm
hi
a
Ketav.
climate-
Yes, I also want to briefly introduce Ketav. Ketav was the one who also initiated this there, and yes, he is joining in from US there. Yes, Ketav, please go ahead.
Hey, I think that's a great question. There are two different roles here. The first role is the role of the protocol owner, which Venki mentioned. The second role is the role of someone that will be the network manager, right? That is the role that the person who's asked the question, sorry, I didn't get his name, is
Sandeep.
referring to. Sandeep, yes, Sandeep. Sandeep, that'll be the role of network manager. If you see, for example, ONDC, there is the backend protocol that is used in ONDC, but there is this entity called ONDC Limited that is the network manager. Similarly, in UPI, there is the protocol and there is Beam NPCI that is the network manager. So as this network will evolve, there will be an entity which will become the network manager. And this network manager will manage the network. Now, who could this entity be? Ideally, this entity would be a coalition of all the partners who are a part of the network. But this is something that we would like to, it's too early to define exactly who this entity will be. Once we are done with the pilot, once we get the participation, once we get the proof points, we'll define what this network manager is and who are the participants who play the role of the network manager. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. So basically, you are at this stage at the moment, which is kind of still having great initiative, right? Like you're trying to put together. So you're trying to define the protocol and taking one service at a time, trying to see how you can leverage the base protocol and create something more specific out of it. And as a result of that, you will bring people together and see if a network can be created.
Absolutely. This is the early stage, like you
Okay,
rightly
fine. So
said.
so I think I wish the presentation was more about that we are not a network. We are trying to basically aspire to be a network, right? Like, and then I think it would have given a good flow basically. But thanks, Ketav. That explains many
No,
things.
absolutely. I think feedback well taken.
Yeah.
We'll sort of integrate this into our communication, right? I think the idea is that this is currently a Nashik pilot, right? This is a Nashik pilot. We are trying to build the proof point for a hyper local farmer centric network, right? How will this look like? Once this sort of scales, this will be interoperable and integrated with national networks like ONDC, Vistar, other private networks, other hyperlocal networks. We're just trying to test out this concept here. Like you said, leveraging the open protocols.
Yeah, so I think in like the way I look at networks is like, individual companies create their own networks and people don't share networks. Otherwise, it's like sharing your customer. The customer can choose to be on many networks.
Yes.
Right? So my point is that when you can't create a network, you can put people together and the people create the network. When I say people, businesses, individual farmers, whoever they want. So I think it's like you can only popularize a medium where the network can be created. Yeah, thanks.
I think you raise a good point, right? And now I'll add on to this.
Yeah.
Because here the network terminology in tech or in open networks is something additional in addition to the standard network definition that we have, right? here network, what we're trying to do by using the same protocols, we're trying to make networks interoperable with each other.
That makes sense.
Let me give you an example, right? So for example, currently Uber is a private network. It's a private network of drivers and riders that want to do ride hailing or ride in cabs, right? ONDC is another network. ONDC is and by the way, the Uber network also provides through Uber Eats a food delivery service. ONDC is a public network that facilitates delivery of food. Now, both these, the private Uber network and the public ONDC network, both of them are interoperable for the food delivery segment. What this means is, as an ONDC customer, I'll be able to, using, for example, Paytm or using any other ONDC app, I will be able to use Uber Eats to order food. But I'll not be able to use Uber to order rides. So
yeah,
the whole point being that what we're trying to do is, we're not trying to create a network in a silo. By using the same protocol, we're trying to make the networks interoperable so that there is seamless. If you're part of one network, at the same time, you are able to access all the other networks. And when I mean access the other networks, access the services and service providers who are present or providing services on the other network.
Yeah.
Without,
no, I understand that, Kedar. Sorry.
Yeah.
I think that's the reason I was asking the earlier question. How do you come together to define these interfaces, APIs? Because it has to be first agreed with everyone that we are happy with this interface before you even implement one of them. Right?
Exactly.
So in my opinion, if you ever want to be successful in such an approach, various people who will be eventually part of your network, even like, let's say, top 10, top 20 people, should have a say in defining these APIs so that they are very comfortable and they can do their own implementations. You don't care how they implement, but at least the interface should be agreed upon. Yeah, thanks. I think you've answered many of my
Absolutely. That's exactly what we are hoping to do over the next few weeks.
Yeah.
Any more questions? All right. If there are no further questions. Yes.
One question, Venki. Venki, I don't know if I missed it, but can you also share?
Sorry, who is this? I'm not able to identify who is this.
Yeah, this is Tarun.
Yes, Tarun. Yes, Tarun, please go ahead.
Yeah, so origin story of sorry, yeah. So I was saying, I don't know if I missed it, but if you can share the origin story of UAI. I mean, where did you identify the need of we should have a open network like UAI, and how can give some origin of how it should? I think that will give a little bit more context around, kind of how it came.
Yeah, so we did talk about that in the earlier parts. Like I was saying the other day, that Nasik in a certain sense is the Koramangala for agri-tech. So the idea is to what ways can we really select a place that can with low friction use case that can really succeed in. That was one fundamental element here. But of course, the other factors came in together. Indigram Labs came in, and so we also had a very enthusiastic farmer participation. Deepak ji is here, Mahesh is here. So there are a lot of folks are right now seeing a lot of openness there. So that's where it makes it obvious for us to look at this specific location here.
And maybe I'm happy to add a little bit on the broader UAI piece. What we try to do is, I think all of us in the community know the challenge that exists in the agri-tech sector, right? While in other sectors, let's take ride sharing or ride hailing, for example. In that ride hailing, Uber or Ola will take maybe 20-30%, 70-80% will go to the provider of that service. In the case of agri, right, that thing is almost entirely flipped between, let's say, the intermediaries, the farmer. The idea is there is a lot of initiatives that have taken place in the agri sector, but not many of them have the farmer or the agri-tech community at the center. So to give you an example, through ONDC, farmers, FPOs are able to buy or sell produce, but they are one of the many players that can be there in ONDC, right? So what we wanted to do is there something that we can create, a network that we can create based on open network principles that places farmer and farmers' needs at the center. So this is the genesis of this is doing something very hyper local, doing something very community owned, the agri-tech community owned, that first identifies the needs, the local needs of the farmers, right? It would vary location by location. It will identify service providers and bring them onto the same network. A farmer will not need to download tens of apps to access all the services. For service providers, it will help them with customer acquisition, reduce service delivery costs, right? Improve customer retention. And the last point is, we don't want this to be a siloed network. Like there is just contradiction in the word silo and network, right? You want this. This is a network that will be integrated with the national networks at the right time, and also with all of these other hyperlocal networks. So that was the sort of genesis thinking behind thinking of UAI or the open network in agriculture, doing something with the farmer at the center, creating value for the agri-tech community, and integrated and interoperable with the national networks.
Hello, can I know what the national network could be in the future? I mean, when you say integration, this is basically farmer-centric, right, as of now?
Yes, it is. It is farmer-centric as of now, but the thing is, so this, for example, the Nashik pilot that we're doing, right? This is a pilot that will be owned by the community, farmer-centric, solve the needs of the farmers at Nashik. However, for you to be, like, for this to be really valuable, right? A farmer needs to be able to, for example, access some schemes that might be centrally defined. A farmer would need to transact with players who are there in different parts of India. They might need to export something outside, right? They might need to take in some machinery or technology that might not be available locally. So for this to be really value creating for the farmer, this needs to be integrated nationally.
National in sense, if there are any apps, like if the government is using some subsidiaries or some apps to, something for farmers in particular.
Absolutely.
So you mean to say this kind of network or this platform should be integrated, and he has to know those things also. Like he gets to know those things on fly. That's what you're trying to say?
Yes. And the thing is, the beauty of this is, the beauty of the protocol that we are defining, right? Is that all of this happens on the back end without the farmer having to worry about downloading a new app. So to give you an example, right? One of the discussions we are having is at the right time when the pilot reaches the maturity, this will be interoperable with ONDC network, integrated with the ONDC network.
Okay.
So they will be able to sell or buy from any customer in India, right?
Yes.
With this.
Yes.
At the right time, we have this will also be interoperable with the Vistar network.
Vistar, okay.
Right, so they'll be able to get the relevant advisory content at the right time, right? Of course, there's all of these sort of there are these interfaces, APIs, protocols for each of the networks which we need to manage, right, while we are doing this interconnection. But that's the plan, to have it integrated to the national networks.
Okay, that is the vision forward.
Yes,
Good.
yes, Shailaja.
Okay.
Well, that's a great question.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. We almost have the last 6 minutes more. If are there any more last final questions?
Sorry, I've taken so much time. Okay, somebody else then.
Yeah. Sorry, somebody else wanted to have a question? Sandeep, you're most welcome to ping us, and we will create a forum in terms of where some of these conversations could be held and some of these doubts could be there. We will figure out what is the right forum and space where some of these conversations could be taken forward to address all your queries. So we will figure out that and let you know soon. Yes, Harshad.
Yeah, Venki, I would like to know, in sense you were going to work on those 3 use cases. So if you can post us like how we are going to go about, I think it will be more.
Sure. We have shared this already. We'll share in terms of what's our plan, and as a follow-up to this, we will send you details as to how you can be part of it, what are we planning to do, and all of that we will send it.
Okay, that is great. Like if at all we want to participate or something, we
Definitely.
can.
We will send out to you more details over email for all the people who participated in this. Yes. Yes,
Thank you
Harshad.
so much. Thank you so much.
Hi Venki, thank you first of all for taking this initiative. So I just wanted to understand, I'm just a bit curious on the lines of these use cases. So how were these 3 use cases prioritized from the 15?
I think as Sunilji was mentioning in his text, when we looked at what are the specific pain points that are there and what will really help us scale fast, and based on that, these use cases were sort of prioritized in there. Because at one level, from mechanization to also to cold storage and activities there. So we really want to see how we can quickly scale it, and that's one of the reasons where these 3 were sort of eventually prioritized. Yes.
Okay, because like when you mentioned it should be, farmer centric more. Just an observation, I feel mechanization is not a top priority for them compared to maybe selling their produce at a right price. So
Yeah, but we are talking about Nashik here, right? So it's a very specific local.
yeah, it is only for grapes.
Yeah, so we're talking about very specifically to the Nashik pilot that Keta was talking about there. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Any more questions?
Sorry, the only other thing that I would add to this, right? Harshad has said this is also going to be, this will be evolving. So this is almost the first, what we're trying to do in the first 3 months. But the idea is not to stop at this. The idea is that we build on this, add other use cases as this evolves. And if, by the way, a lot of this will be driven by players who have a presence in Nashik and who have, let's say, a app or platform ready who are able to offer a certain service. If players like this sign up, we are very happy to integrate that into the roadmap or timelines, right, for this Nashik pilot. If you have a service that will be valuable to Nashik farmers, we're happy to integrate this into the timelines also.
And we have a lot of also, like my issues there. We have a lot of folks who are on the ground who are in continuous interaction there. So the idea is to really embed it to their real problems, not something that's done in a very top down. So we are looking at this from a bottom up perspective here.
So Keta, eventually, like if you don't want people to have multiple apps, you guys will be building an app as well, right?
Not really. So there are, for example, there are apps that farmers already use. So they can access all these services through those apps. And these are some of the existing companies and apps that are already prevalent in Nashik. In addition to that, we're also contemplating creating a WhatsApp bot, which will be another medium for farmers to interact.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
One last question I have, Venki. Just
Yes,
want to
Shalini.
know, how can we buy in government in this? Is there any points like we have to present to, because they are also equally responsible. They have a responsibility towards farmers because farmers are the backbone of any country. So is there any buy-in for government in this?
I did touch upon this in the earlier part. See, in a certain way, this is happening, with government-based sort of support and blessings from them. So there is a certain level of, awareness and they are aware of what we are doing and what we are striving to do here. So the idea is to really make it interoperable, right? Like what Keta was saying. So it is very much they are a part of the picture in some sense.
So that is basically with the central government, is it? Not with state governments.
See, the intent here is to go, as we talking about hyperlocal pods, is to really facilitate creating these kind of UAIs at different states there. We are not looking at it from a center or a state perspective. The idea is to create multiple UAIs, hyperlocal pods, so that which all can be integrated here. So this is not necessarily looking at it only from a center or whether be a state per se.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay, we have almost come to the end of last 2 hours. Prateek, we are looking at a timeline of till December 15 is where the first pilot to be launched. We will share the recording with all of you, those who missed in there. First of all, thank you very, very much for people staying in for 2 hours and with engaging with a lot of questions. We are also learning and we are also figuring things out. So thank you very, very much. Thanks to Ramji, Ketavji, and Ketav, and everyone else from the team who also chimed in. And if you have any questions, if you want to further engage this, we will figure a right set of platform where we can continue these conversations. And we will really looking forward to take your support to really build this further and move forward. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Venki.
Thank you.
Thank you, Venki. Please share the
Venki.
PPT if you can, Venki.
Yeah, we will share all the recording and the presentations. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much.